Welcome back, everybody. It is another Wednesday. Here we are, and we are here to talk about some fun stuff I think it's fun. I don't know, maybe you won't, but I wanted to give you some tips today on how to work a little bit smarter and not necessarily harder. For me, it's been really nice here, although today it's kind of rainy, but when I've been working on all this and thinking about what I was going to talk about, it's been really nice, and the weather's been like calling me outside. It wants me to come outside and join it and do something out there. And I don't know about you guys, but I love being outside. I love getting outside, running through the woods. I don't care, whatever it is. I've done that since I was a kid. And so anyway, I've been thinking about ways that in the entirety, I guess, of how I have done my career, what are the things that I've implemented as strategies to be able to work smarter and not harder? Even though I still work hard, even though I still have this weird desire to have so many things going on, there are ways that I'm always implementing either automations or strategies to try to work smarter on how I want to publish my books, right? And so I'm going to share with you, in the podcast today, I have 10, but I'm going to share with you the top 5. So that way you get like a little idea of where I was going with it. I was thinking about the overall arc from start to finish. And so I was giving my top 10 tips from start to finish and things that I want you to be thinking about in order to work smarter. So the first tip that I have for today, and the first one in the podcast, is to know your market. So before you ever put pen to paper, if you have the time to really think about the book that you're going to write or the book that you want to write, really understanding your market is going to be key when it comes to not only getting readership, but also being able to hit the tropes that they're looking for, be able to do a lot of the things that is expected. Know the covers, know the type of blurbs that are going to call your readers in. Plus, knowing that genre really inside and out, it helps you to be able to market your book in a lot of other ways. So knowing your market, knowing your genre, knowing that there is a market is critical when it comes to trying to sell your books. And sometimes, I get it, books call to you and you just have to write them. That happens, and that's totally cool. Sometimes it means having to figure out the market afterwards. But when you have the capability and you have the opportunity to do the research first, I would definitely suggest researching it in advance. Hey, Terry, good to see you here. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to understand story mechanics. Okay, so it's not just, in my head, it's not just about like, okay, what's a beginning, middle, end? It's not just about the 3 acts. It's not just about the 4 quarters. It's all of it. It's to understand what are the story archetypes that are out there? What are the ways that you put your story together? How do you know if you're doing it correctly? And really honestly, knowing those story dynamics and knowing what type of book you're writing, what archetype you're writing, it's really important. And so one of the biggest tips that I recommend for you guys is to check out the Story Cure. So it's one of the mini courses that I put together, has all of the information when it comes to being able to understand what type of story you want to create or this type of story that you're already creating. So it'll be in the podcast notes today. So if you go over to authorrevolution.org/36, the link to that is in there. But the Story Cure is really my answer to being able to understand some of the basics when it comes to the mechanics of your story, knowing what type of story you're trying to create. And if you're trying to get deeper into like the four quarters and the 3 acts, we've got podcast episodes and Facebook Live episodes that we've talked about that as well. All right, so tip number 3 is to write and to really honestly fight for that writing time. Because as authors, I don't know, it must be a creative type thing. We have a tendency to like, yes, today I'm going to write, ooh, shiny. And then it doesn't happen. Someone calls or someone needs something or there are like a whole host of things. So when that happens, obviously our writing doesn't get done. So I want you to really carve out your writing time and fight for it. Make sure that you are actually getting that time in and making it happen, because otherwise your goals and your dreams of publishing and getting those books out there just don't come to fruition, and that's not what we want, right? We want to be able to get everything out there. So fight for your writing time, and that also includes fighting yourself. So when you're writing, do not edit, because let me tell you, you are going to be wasting so much time, and in this like constant realm of editing, because you don't have the tools that you need to finish your book, to finish your story until you have that whole first draft done. Hey, David, you said that's you? Was that for the editing part? So don't edit it. Don't edit it at all. Or was it the letting everything else get in the way? I totally get that one. I used to do that as well. In fact, I'm kind of doing it a little bit right now, which is probably why I decided to include it. I'm working on Haunted Legacy right now, but I've gone back into Secret Legacy to do some tweaking. Long story. It's in the podcast if you have a listen. But yeah, so when it comes to that editing side, make sure that you're not editing while you're writing, because I think it was even Terry Pratchett, and I think I said this in the podcast too. He's the one that said that the first draft is just you telling the story to yourself. And until you know the whole story, you can't really edit it well, because you're in the weeds. You're in like the very like tiny little aspect of it. Shiny things. Got it. Yep. I totally get that. For me, it's kind of the shiny thing too, but like at least it's being productive. At least that's what I'm telling myself where I'm working on Secret Legacy. It's part of the podcast. There's like, I think it was tip number, let's see if I can find it, 7. Tip number 7 is the reason why I'm on Secret Legacy and doing some tweaks instead of writing Haunted Legacy. Okay, so anyhow, so editing is not good. Let the editing part of it go until it's actually time to do the edits, because you're going to be faster. It kind of goes back to the idea of batching, which is tip number 5. So I'll go back to that in a second. But tip number 5 is batch anything and everything. And what I mean by that is do all like-minded tasks, anything that is similar or repetitive, or things that can be all kind of done where you're in the same mindset. So for instance, things that I batch together, writing, so that I'm not writing and editing and answering social media and doing all those things. When I am sitting down and writing, I am writing. That's it. Nothing else. And when I'm editing, I am editing. Nothing else. Well, reading, I suppose. Whatever. Social media is another good one. So I use a program called Buffer to be able to schedule all of my social media posts out to whatever platforms I'm using. Not all the time are they scheduled, but a good portion of the time, because I'll tell you what, when you're writing or when you're busy doing other things, it does take a lot out of you to like come out of that, have to think about, okay, what kind of social media post do I want to do today? What sites do I want to post it at? Where if you're in a site like Buffer, and it's all done on, web browser. So Buffer, I think it has an app for phones, probably iPad, whatever, but for your computer, it's just your browser. And so you're in there and you're getting everything organized. You can see everything in one place, which is great, especially if you go across platforms. So if you've got Facebook and you've got Twitter and you've got LinkedIn, you've got Pinterest or Instagram, whatever the case might be. I don't think TikTok's on there yet, but everything else pretty much. I don't know how they would do TikTok on there anyhow, because there's so many editing tools for those videos. But the point of it is that you're in there, you're able to think about it, you're in that social media mindset, and you're able to kind of put that hat on, especially when you're doing just one. So I would definitely recommend, if you have other platforms, like for me, I have Author Revolution, and then I also have my author page, my author stuff. I have clients. So when I am doing one, I stick with that one until it's done, because then you're in that mindset. So the Author Revolution mindset, the Carissa Andrews author mindset, the musician mindset is one of my clients. So every time you're doing that, stick with it until you're done with whatever the batching part of it is, whether it be a week or a month. Some people do months. I do the Lakes Area Writers Alliance sometimes, so I'll batch all of that stuff as far out as I can go, do that so that it's all in there. And then you just walk away from it. You don't have to really think about it for the rest of the week. And for me, that's beautiful. Although half the time I'm like, why are all these notifications going? Oh yeah, I probably scheduled something and they're liking it. Whatever. Yay. So it's really helpful. But when you go to the writing side and you're doing nothing but writing, your head is in the game of writing. And the second you try to multitask by editing, you're pulling yourself out and you're using a different part of your brain. And what happens is that it takes you another 20 minutes. Research has found that it takes you 20 minutes to get into the groove of things, which is why when you do those 15-minute sprints, you're not quite there yet. You're getting close, but you're not quite ready to hit the goal that you're actually going to get if you go to a half an hour or to an hour of writing. Uninterrupted, that is. Because as soon as you get past that 20 minutes, your brain has engaged in the task, and now you're sitting in that kind of the zone where you are honed in to what you're writing, to what's happening in the world, and you're able to just kind of go for it, which can be also difficult when you're living in a house with like 4 kids that are really loud and obnoxious. I'm just saying. So half the time I go outside. You can't see it, but the door is that way. So I'll pick up my laptop and race outside, which usually means the 5-year-old follows me, but that's okay because he usually goes to the sandbox. I'm okay with that. All right, so those are my top 5 tips, but there are 5 more. So definitely listen to the podcast when you get a second. It's not super long. It's like 22 minutes. So feel free to skip forward to number 6 if you would like. But if you've got any of your own tips of things that you've used to be able to work smarter and not harder, let me know, because I'm really interested in ways to be able to automate things. There are so many tips, guys, that I couldn't even get into them. Things like newsletter tips, like automations for newsletters, or using things like Zapier. There's so much fun stuff to be able to dive into at a certain point. I'm just not able to do it right now. And so I wanted to go through the kind of the start to finish aspect of ways to be able to make things go faster and easier for you from the moment you start writing to the moment that you end. So hopefully that is helpful. If you've got any questions or anything at all, just obviously you know where to find me. Either leave a comment on the page, in the Facebook group, or if we're hooked together in Facebook or anywhere else, or email, you know where to find me. All right, guys. Again, the podcast is out at authorrevolution.org/36. And unless you're following it on like Apple or Spotify or something like that, and if that's a case, then awesome. You are wicked cool. Thank you. All right, guys. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Get some writing done. I was going to say enjoy the sunshine, but it's not looking too sunny out here. So if you're in Minnesota, good luck. All right. Bye, David. Bye, Terry. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day.